Welcome in to another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton Wasserman here with our full preview of Week 6 of college football. Dalton, it's not as loaded of a slate as last week. We're literally 20 seconds ago, you and I were talking about it like, man, every time you think the college football slate is just okay this week, that's when the most madness happens. And we've got 9 really interesting games to talk about this week.
Absolutely. There's no such thing as a light slate. We got to just take that out of the vernacular, honestly. It's just a matter of, look, these games, you still step on the field, you still got to play them. And this early in the season still, we're only in week 6, still a lot of teams competing, trying to win games, trying to get to bowl games and stack wins early, trying to compete for playoff spots later in the season. Every game is just as important as the previous week and as the next week. And no matter if it's a light slate or not, college football always gives us the chaos.
You mentioned the playoffs right there. I want to wish everyone out there who celebrates it a happy first day of the MLB playoffs.
I don't celebrate.
I want to wish producer Eli back there, a Reds fan, producer Tyler back there, a Guardians fan. I'm a Yankees fan. Our guy Mitch Kaiser's a Tigers fan. You, Dalton, are not celebrating it because you are a Mets fan.
I'm about to leave. I'm going to leave. You didn't even plan that. I should leave right now and just have you do the show yourself. You brought up 4 other people on top of the entire city we live in the postseason, and I saw an all-time, not even an all-time collapse like the last 2 weeks. It was like a 3-month drag along, just dragging their way to the finish line. The New York Mets because the
Mets are out now, you can root for another New York team, the Yankees, as playoffs too, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm
Support
leaving.
The city.
Support the city. I'm about to leave. You're like 5 more words coming out of your mouth for me just going home right now. Killing me.
We got a great slate of college football, though, to talk about this week. We still have actually a couple games between top 20 teams, and the other 7 games talking about featuring college football playoff contenders. We're all ranked in the top 25 as well. And remind people that our records in the year, Dalton, we were tied going into last week. You made it up, though, because you are now up 2 games on the year, 34-20 on the year. I am 32-22 on the season.
That's the only reason I'm staying. Is that right? That's all I have. That's all I have left is that record right there.
Pixel in the chat is saying he's an Astros fan, so he also gets you, Dalton.
Yeah, they had a big time collapse down.
You and Axel
did. Yeah.
Handshake emoji.
Yeah, pretty much. That's where we're at. That's it. The most depressing handshake you will ever have, and you're like, "Yep, I get it. I get the pain. I understand it." But now some of us are just fully in football season.
Real quick before we move into it, you're a diehard baseball fan. I'm not really. I root for the Yankees in September and October, and that's it. Real quick, World Series prediction right now. What would you do?
Wow,
I have no idea.
The funny part, this is like as wide open a year as I can remember.
Reds, Yankees.
No, not
Yankees
the Reds.
Winning.
No, I'm going to go. I'll say that I'm going to go West Coast. I'm going to go Seattle over the Dodgers. I'll go West Coast. I think the Dodgers still have something in them.
Let us know in the chat if you're a baseball fan as well what your World Series predictions are. I want to remind you guys too, every stat that we talk about here on this show is available to you guys with a PFF Plus subscription at subscribe.pff.com. or use the link in the description below. And also, you can get PFF Plus for 25% off right now when you use the promo code PFFCFB25. We are currently, as of yesterday, in the lead, Dalton. We have the most subscriptions through our promo code of any of the shows here at PFF. So big thanks to you guys for using that promo code. Let's keep it going because the Fantasy Podcast and the NFL show that you're on, Dalton, and NFL SC and everything else, they're right close behind us right now. So it's not over yet. Keep using that promo code right now, PFFCFB25, to get all of the keep going so you can feed my kids, exactly. Our hypothetical children. Or actually, Tyler has children, though, so
yeah,
keep going so you can feed Tyler's children.
Yeah, it's really Tyler's kids, yeah.
But please use that promo code. Keep using it because we are in the lead right now. And again, you get access to the best fantasy football tools, the best betting tools on the planet, our full 2026 NFL mock draft simulator with about almost 500 prospects available in that mock draft simulator. All of it's available with a PFF Plus subscription. Again, 25% off. Use the promo code PFFCFB25. All right, let's dive into the first of our 9 games here on this preview. And Dalton, for the first time this year, you and I will be in attendance for one of these games. Number 14, Iowa State at Cincinnati, right down the road from here, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. The storyline to know in this game is, can Cincinnati spoil Iowa State's perfect season right now? So the Cyclones have started 5-0 for the second straight year. Before last year, Iowa State did not have a 5-0 record since 1980. Now the Cyclones go on the road to put their unbeaten record to the test against a Cincinnati team that's won their last 3 games following their season opening loss to Nebraska. And Cincinnati, as you can see right there, Dalton, is 1.5-point favorites according to DraftKings Sportsbook right now.
See, here's the thing. If the rumors are true for what Mitch Kaiser has been telling me, they serve Skyline chili in the Cincinnati press box. The real over-under is how much Skyline chili I'll be eating in the press box during the game.
That's true.
That's actually the real bet we got to look at. But no, it is. I kind of had this same feeling about, we saw the Ole Miss was favored over LSU last week. It seemed like, okay, they're the lower-ranked team. They should be the underdog. But something might feel fishy. And honestly, you could argue that this might even be the most even game that we have in this slate among these 9 games. Cincinnati's hot after the opening loss to Nebraska. Iowa State has been hot since the beginning of the season. Their defense has been playing really well. Rocco Beck's been playing efficient football. It's going to be a really fun game, and I think it is a big-time road test for Iowa State, considering the big win Cincinnati's coming off of at Kansas last week and just the momentum they have going right now on both sides of the ball.
So you have the Iowa State offense. Both quarterbacks in this game are on really hot starts this year. You have the Rocco Beck and the Cyclones. What should we know about them?
So we've talked so much about Iowa State and losing Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll, and will they be able to adjust on the outside and get production from their wide receivers, right? And they've made up for it so far by using their 2 great tight ends, Ben Bramer and Gabe Burkle, running the football with Carson Hansen and Abu Sama. I think this is actually the first week now, and we've seen guys play well. Brett Eskilson's been good on the outside. Xavier Townsend. Chase Sowell had a big game this past week. I think this is really going to be the first week, and Arizona last week was good too because Arizona's got a pretty good secondary, but this is where Iowa State is going to want to target Cincinnati on the outside. The middle of Cincinnati's defense is really good at all 3 levels, especially if they get the big nose tackle, the Godfather Dante Corleone, back from injury this week. You've got him. You got guys like Jake Golday at linebacker, who's really good. Antoine Peak at safety is super aggressive, and keep in mind, Cincinnati and Iowa State run the same exact defense at 3-man front, 3-3-5, a lot of drop 8. Neither team is going to rush the passer a whole lot, but I think Rocco Beck is going to want to attack on the outside. Cincinnati's cornerbacks rank 117th in the country in coverage grade. It's really the one weak spot on their defense right now. You talk about the starters, especially Coastal Carolina transfer Matt McDoom, Logan Wilson on the other side. The cornerbacks have really kind of struggled. It's weird that we also have Bengals and Bearcats with a Logan Wilson on their team. But anyway,
True, yeah.
Rocco Beck throwing at or outside the numbers this year. And it's funny because last year I talked so much about how good Rocco Beck was at throwing over the middle of the field. This year he's throwing well on the outside. 88 passing grade at or outside the numbers, 16th best in the country. 7 big-time throws is 8th most. 78.8% air yards percentage. 5th highest in the country when he's throwing at or outside the numbers. I think, funny enough, Iowa State has gotten this far on offense by running the football, getting in 12 personnel, and using their tight ends. And sometimes that implies the tight ends getting outside the numbers too, Bramer and Burkle. But I think this is a moment where Iowa State can really test those wide receivers and see, can these guys get us through a big game as well and really get the last piece of this offense, to get this offense more well-rounded, right? Because, yes, they got 2 good backs. They've got Rocco. They've got 2 good tight ends. But the outside is the question. If they can throw to the outside with the same success they have the first few games, they could be at a big advantage here because Cincinnati's cornerbacks are really the one big weakness on this defense.
Absolutely. My match to watch is all about the quarterback, too, Brendan Sorsby, who's been on a scorching hot start to his season right now. Didn't start off that way, though. Only a 46.1 passing grade in the loss to Nebraska. But since then, he has been one of the best quarterbacks in the nation over the last few weeks. 92.2 PFF grade on the year is the best in college football. He has had 85-plus grades in each of the last 3 games. He has great touch and really good mobility, too. As you see right there, 86.6 rushing grade. That is 3rd among all quarterbacks in the country. But Iowa State's defense will present a similar challenge to the one Sorsby struggled with Nebraska in terms of how good their secondary is. The Cyclones right now are tied for 34th in the nation in coverage grade, while the Cornhuskers were 24th right now in coverage grade. So still really good secondaries. But what makes this game different, though, is that Nebraska played man coverage in that game on over 60% of the dropbacks Sorsby has. Iowa State, meanwhile, plays man coverage only 12% of the time this year. That's 115th in college football. And against zone coverage, Brendan Sorsby has a 90.7 passing grade. That is 10th among all quarterbacks in the country. He has 5 big-time throws and no turnover-worthy plays against zone coverage. So, yes, the secondary for Iowa State is just as good as the secondary for Nebraska, but it's a different matchup, though, because Nebraska plays a lot of man coverage and did so a lot in that game. Iowa State, meanwhile, is almost an exclusive zone defense.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's going to be interesting with both of these quarterbacks because the way these two defenses are exactly the same with those three-man fronts, they're never going to be elite pass rush teams. Both of these teams within the bottom 15 of pass rush grade this year. So Sorsby and Rocco Becht are going to have a lot of clean pockets to work with. But you do make a great point about Nebraska in the man-to-man coverage. Even going back to last year, those are the types of teams that Cincinnati struggled with because of some difficulties they've had at wide receiver. We're going to see a test for their wide receivers also, and I do like that they've really zoned in on either early in the year and in that Nebraska game in week 1, they were trying to figure out, okay, who are our top guys? Who are the best receivers that we have? Who's going to get the football most often? Last week especially, they've really locked in on Cyrus Allen and Caleb Goody, a couple of speed threats. Curious to see if Iowa State changes their usual mode of operation and coverage at all, but if it is a lot of zone coverage, I do think you're right. Cincinnati stands a better chance, and both of these teams, there are places, especially with so many clean pockets they're going to have, where they can nitpick their way through these defenses. They just need the quarterbacks to make the throws.
So, Dalton, ultimately, Iowa State, who is currently an underdog as a top 15 team going on the road against an unranked team, are you taking that, or are you saying the Cyclones will beat Cincinnati?
I do think we would look at Cincinnati a lot different had they had a better game plan in that Nebraska game. I think they could have leaned on their run game more and won that game, and we would look at this game a lot different if the final outcome went Cincinnati's game in that week. You know, I think it was a big win they got on the road last week against Kansas, a very good Kansas offense that did expose them on the outside, but I think the more I look at these two teams, especially the fact that it's here in Cincinnati, I think it's a very, very even game. I think this is arguably the hardest game to pick this week. Maybe there's one or two more that are pretty close, depending on your opinion of the teams. But this is a tough one because I think these teams are very similar in style. They both want to have balance in their offense. I'm going to ride with the home team. Again, similar feeling that I had with Ole Miss being the favorite over LSU. I'm like, something's up there. And I do think their defense can keep them in it. I think their run defense, especially if Corleone is back from injury this week, I think Iowa State could have some difficulties running the ball on Cincinnati. The run defense is arguably the strongest part of their whole team. And you mentioned it, Sorsby is raging hot right now after week 1. And maybe, just maybe, we can chalk that up to Nebraska's pass defense just being really good. Because we even saw them against Michigan. They got beat on the ground, right? They didn't get beat through the air with Bryce Underwood. So Nebraska's got a good secondary that Cincinnati just couldn't crack through. Maybe Sorsby can make enough throws in this game. And they still want to get in the running game with Sorsby, with Tawi Walker, with Evan Pryor. 50-50 game to me. I'll take the home team. I believe I have it 27-24.
Yeah, I have it 30-27, but I have Iowa State winning. Pixel in the chat says that he has Cincinnati upsetting Iowa State, which actually really technically is not an upset considering their favorite. But also Drake Holiday in the chat is saying he's got Iowa State winning this game too. So it is truly a 50-50 ball game.
I think there's the next game we have here too is hard. I think is harder to pick than people think. But you could argue, I think easily, that this is the hardest game of the week to pick.
I think both quarterbacks in this game will have success against both defenses. So we should be in for a shootout in this one. But I do think Iowa State's secondary, even as much as they play zone coverage and even as good as Brendan Sorsby has been against zone coverage, I do think it presents a similar challenge to the one he faced against Nebraska. So I think Iowa State will come up with enough stops in this game to win. I have Iowa State continuing their perfect season, 30-27. Iowa State will be 6-0 for the second straight year. Last time they were 6-0, 1938. So it's been an incredible couple years so far for Matt Campbell over there at Iowa State. So I have 30-27, the Cyclones taking down the Bearcats, and what should be the best noon game and also a game that we will be in attendance for, Dalton. If anyone's watching this video right now that will be at that game, hit us up. We'd love to meet you guys in Nippert Stadium this Saturday. All right, next up is a big one. Number 16, Vanderbilt at number 10, Alabama, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Really, can the Crimson Tide keep it rolling and get revenge on the Commodores? So, Alabama obviously started the year off with an embarrassing 31-17 loss to then unranked Florida State, but now they're back in the top 10 following a 24-21 road victory over Kirby Smart and 5th-ranked Georgia this past weekend. Now, the Crimson Tide will host ESPN's College Game Day as number 16 Vanderbilt is coming to Tuscaloosa with a perfect 5-0 record on the year. It also presents a chance for Alabama to exact revenge on Vanderbilt for last year's earth-shattering 40-35 Vanderbilt upset. Alabama was number 1 in the country entering that game, and they were favored by 24.5 points entering that game, and one of the biggest upsets we've seen in recent memory. And really, Dalton, if that game had gone Alabama's way, they would have been in the college football playoff. So it was a brutal loss for Alabama. But meanwhile, for the Commodores, they're looking to prove to the college football world that they're not just a Cinderella story like last year. They're legitimate college football playoff contenders this year too.
I think if they were to win this game and start 6-0, there is a path to 10, at least 10-2. A 10-2 Vanderbilt with the schedule and the wins they would have, they would go to the playoff. And I think this is the game now. If they can do it again, that proves that they are playoff contenders. And they have a lot of big games in the SEC after this. But, thinking back to that day last year, this same exact week last year, in a game that I don't think, did we preview that game last year? I don't even know if we previewed it last year.
I don't think we did. Maybe we did.
And you think about how much changed that day with Alabama, obviously with Vandy and Diego Pavia and the year that they had, the great year they had considering their usual standard, and then just what it did throughout the SEC and what it changed about Alabama around them at the top of the SEC. And even to this day, that and the Oklahoma loss was bad too for Alabama, but to this day, it feels like Alabama is still trying to get over that Vanderbilt loss. And this is the day to try to get revenge. And really, if Alabama wins this game coming off a win over Georgia as well, then you talk about, okay, could they rebound from the Florida State loss and now maybe win the SEC? I think that's really the road. This is such a pivotal game for both of these teams. And Alabama, if they lose, they'll be at 2 losses already with more tough games to go. LSU and Auburn and everything else they always have. This is so much fun. I know Miami-Florida State's probably the biggest game of the week. I think this is the most fun game of the week. This is just spectacular.
I can't wait for this game. We did not preview this game last year. I think you and I saw the 24.5 point spread, and wrongly were like, well, Alabama's taking Bears. We don't even talk about this game. But
as Diego said, Vandy got turned.
They got turned. Well, you actually have Diego Pavia in this game, who gave the Alabama defense a lot of issues in last year's 40-35 thriller. What should we know about him and the Commodores this go around?
So first, when you talk about Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia and Tim Beck and this offense, we know the usual, what we've known about this offense for the last 2 years, going back to the New Mexico State days. There's a ton of option football. They lean on the run game first and foremost to keep them on schedule. Diego Pavia, Cedric Alexander on the ground. That's what you get to keep you on schedule. Then you get the play action pass off of that. You get so much motion, so many different looks, so many ways to manipulate linebackers. That was a big thing in this game last year, is that Deontay Lawson and Jahad Campbell, first-round pick Jahad Campbell, really had his worst game of the year against Vanderbilt because there's so much manipulation at both the first and the second level in the run game. So now I'm looking at this Vanderbilt team this year. I think they've got even more talent and obviously more experience. Their offensive line is better. Their new center, Jordan White, the Liberty transfer, is playing great. Trey Richardson, I think for them, has been a revelation at wide receiver. Junior Sherrill's still really good. You still have arguably the best tight end in the country at Eli Stowers, right? He's a spectacular player. But I think when I watch this Vanderbilt offense, it's what's been added to it. And usually with most offenses, you have foundational things and then you get creative, right? But we know Vanderbilt and Tim Beck already has a creative offense. I think the difference this year when I watched them, they can get in a traditional drop-back passing game without play action, without the RPOs. They are getting in the shotgun when they need to and dropping back and just throwing the football. And the play action rates are about 2 or 3% different. The rates themselves of usage are not that different, but the efficiency and the way Diego Pavia now is throwing the ball without play action, third best non-play action passing grade in the country at 90.6. In the previous 3 seasons, he's never been above 80. Last year was an improvement, and he was at, I think, 79.4. Now he's at a 90. Now he's top 10 across the board as a drop back passer. They're dropping back. Even think about I know it's Virginia Tech, and they're not good, but they were on the road at Virginia Tech, down 20-10 at halftime, and they ripped off 34 straight points because they can do this now. They can just line up like any other spread offense, and they can throw the football. And other than the one bad interception he threw against South Carolina, which was just kind of unnecessary with a lead, other than that one throw, Pavia has been one of the best drop-back passers in the country, and that's new. So now you still have the creative run game, the option game, all the screens, all the weirdness you get with Tim Beck's offense. And when they need to, last year when you got Vanderbilt in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, you were like, man, they either got to get really creative or they're just not going to get this, right? This year, when this team is in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, they can just drop back, and Pavia can be a traditional quarterback, and they can drop back and run more classic concepts and throw the football. This offense now, this Vanderbilt offense, has every dimension you could ask for, because that's the one thing that was missing. The pass protection is still not great. It's a little better than last year, but it's not great. But Pavia can improvise. He can scramble. He can still do all that. But the fact that they can get in the gun and just take a 3-step drop and throw to an open receiver, Sherrill and Richardson, especially at wide receiver, have been great. This offense has everything you could ask for in it as long as they block just well enough up front.
Absolutely. So we actually have Walt in the chat saying, it sounds like Diego Pavia, based on your report, is the better quarterback in this game. Well, that's not guaranteed.
Hold up now. I love me some Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson's really good now.
Because you look at it right now, Ty Simpson is second in the Heisman odds right now behind Oregon quarterback Dante Moore on DraftKings Sportsbook. He has been phenomenal this year. Really, my match to watch is, can Vanderbilt get Ty Simpson under consistent pressure in this game? Like I mentioned before, he's plus 900 in Heisman odds, only behind Dante Moore on DraftKings. And a big reason for that is how deadly this guy is from a clean pocket. He has a 92.4 PFF grade when kept clean this year. That's 6th among all quarterbacks in the country. 11 touchdown passes from a clean pocket is 5th in the country, and no interceptions from a clean pocket so far this year either. But when he's been under pressure, he's been less effective. A 48 PFF grade under pressure, that's 96th in the country. 54% adjusted completion rate is 101st in the country. But fortunately for him, Alabama's offensive line, which I had as the number 1 offensive line in the country entering the year, they have been phenomenal in protecting him this year with the 14th best pass blocking grade in college football at 79.8. That includes a 93.6 pass blocking grade this past weekend against Georgia in a game where Ty Simpson dropped back 40 times and he was under pressure only 5 times on those 40 dropbacks against the Bulldogs. Vanderbilt could present some issues for Alabama's offensive line, though. Right now, they're 12th in pass rushing grade this year at 82.7. They're 19th in pressure rate this year at 37.6%. And they're also 13th in the nation in coverage grade this year, which is a little bit different than what we've seen from Vanderbilt teams before with a 90.4 coverage grade. So Ty Simpson might need to make some tight window throws under duress in this game.
No, absolutely. I think Ty Simpson right now is the biggest reason that Alabama wins football games. I know their defense played better against Georgia last week. They still are struggling to rush the passer themselves. I think that's going to be the key, is Ty Simpson. This really may get to be a scenario where Simpson has to outduel Pavia. Jalen Milroe couldn't do it last year. There was an early pick 6 in that game. Ryan Williams did pop off for one big play later in the game that kept Alabama in it. But I think Ty Simpson now, This is it doesn't seem like it should be a big game for him. I know every game in the SEC is big, but this is one he might have to get him through, because Alabama also last year did not run the football well. And they didn't run it a whole lot because they fell behind, but they also didn't run the football very well in this game last year. So I think a little more balance would help them, a dominant effort from that offensive line. But Simpson has been fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dalton, ultimately, will Vanderbilt shock the universe again and pull it off again, this time on the road, over a top 10 team in Alabama? Or will Alabama get revenge and prove why they're still a national title contender? You picked Alabama to win the national title preseason, too.
I did.
So
I did.
I'm guessing you're taking Alabama here.
This is I know the spread is what it is again, and this time it's down to what, 10.5?
10.5, yeah.
And it's probably on the screen there. Yeah. Oh no, yeah, it sure is. So, this game I think it's going to be a war. I really do. I don't think Vandy's going out easy. I think they have a better defense this year than they had last year. I think their receivers are better and I think Diego Pavia is even better than he's ever been. The Alabama, you mentioned it, Ty Simpson could get him in a shootout too. He's been spectacular. He was great against Georgia last week. You could argue he was the best player on the field last week against Georgia. I just got a gut feeling, man. I know I went with Alabama as the title pick. I just got a feeling Pavia is going to pull off one more.
Wow.
I think this is an all-out war. I think it's a shootout. I think even one mistake from either offense could go a long way. Alabama's lack of a pass rush, which didn't get any better last week against Georgia. It's a problem. I believe they have the fourth lowest pass rush grade.
Sixth worst. Yeah.
Sixth worst in the Power Four?
Yep.
Sixth worst pass rush grade in the Power Four. Pavia is going to have time. The fact that they can drop back and just throw the football now on top of, and the foundation is still going to be the run game, the option stuff. If Alabama, I'll tell you an unsung group of guys that needs to have they need to have a great game to win this game. Alabama's linebackers, Deontay Lawson, Justin Jefferson, Nakai Hill-Green. Those are the guys right there that have to make the difference in this game. Because Alabama, I think in the first quarter and a half last year in this game, I watched it again. They did a pretty good job staying disciplined with this option game. And they got frustrated as the game went on. They need to keep their cool in the front seven and play assignment disciplined football if they're going to win this. This game, man, I hate that spread. It started, I think, at 13 or so. I hate that spread. I think it's going to be a war. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Alabama's obviously got plenty of ammo on offense, but I'm riding with the Commodores, 35-31. There's just something about it that bothers me. And I picked Alabama to win the title because I had a hard time picking a title winner, and you can see why with the way college football's gone this year. I still don't fully trust them. I think this is the biggest game of his tenure for Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator. He's got to find a way to not let Pavia kill him in both dimensions. I'm going Vandy.
A lot of people in the chat actually agree with you. I am taking Vandy on the spread, but I'm taking Alabama to win the game. I have Alabama winning 34-27 over Vanderbilt. I think it could be a shootout. I think both quarterbacks thrive within clean pockets, and obviously Bama's pass rush has not been very good this year, but also Alabama's offensive line has been elite this year at protecting Ty Simpson. I think they have the advantage over Vanderbilt pass rush in this game, and I've loved what I've seen from Ty Simpson recently. He had no pulse in that game against Georgia on the road. I think he's really quickly becoming a real legitimate Heisman candidate this year. It could be a high-scoring game, just like last year when there was 75 combined points in last year's game. But I think Alabama at home will pull it off and get payback for last year's loss to Vanderbilt. Should be a great game, though.
Over/under Caden Proctor receptions.
Hopefully over half. Over 1/2 reception.
Maybe he scores this time. Difference in the game.
Could be.
Who knows? If you see him lined up there at tight end, look out.
Yeah.
That's an athlete.
It was actually not a catch last week. It was a
that's right. It was a backwards pass. You're right. All right. Well,
I'll take over 1/2 carries for Caden Proctor.
Oh, okay. Maybe we just hand it to him. Maybe down on the 1 yard line. Put him in the back. Put him in the backfield.
Oh, that would
man.
rock.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What a ball game that's going to be though. And I think one way or the other, we're getting an all out war in that. And I'll tell you, with the confidence they have from the win last year and just having Diego Pavia existing, Vandy, they're not going to be afraid of Bryant Denny. They're not worried about it. They're just going to go in there and play.
So we have differed so far in the first two games. You had Cincinnati beating Iowa State. I had Iowa State beating Cincinnati. Then I had Bama beating Vanderbilt, and you had Vanderbilt beating Alabama. Next up is number 9 Texas at Florida, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Texas with really its first opportunity to prove itself following their loss to Ohio State in week 1. So the Longhorns entered the year as the number 1 team in the country. Its first time being number 1 in the preseason AP poll in program history. But that initial ranking did not last very long, though, because they lost on the road to the now number 1 Ohio State Buckeyes by a final score of 14-7. The Longhorns have won their following 3 games by an average of 34 points, but all 3 of them were against inferior non-Power 4 opponents. Florida started just 1-3 on the year, but they're still a talented team right now who is desperate to get their season back on track. A loss for Texas in this game would completely derail their season, while a win would be the first step for Texas in repairing their national title hopes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is a big game on the road for Texas against, especially Arch Manning, against an underrated defense. The defense for Florida has played well throughout the season. They really have. It's been the offensive issues with DJ Lagway that we'll get into in a second. But the ramifications of this game, I think, for Texas and the playoff hopes, and are they going to lose a second big game this early in the season? And then at this point, if they lose to Florida, they'll be very much on the brink of being out of the playoff eventually. They'd have to run the table, and then even then you go, do they have the ability to run the table if they can't score and if they can't beat Florida? And then for the Gators, a loss in this game, and maybe next week too against A&M, well, you start talking about the brink for their whole program, basically. Yep. Where are we at as a program? Both teams really, really need this win, and it is I think a tougher than expected road trip here for Texas. I think especially for Arch Manning, we've seen him be a little bit rattled at times early this season. The mechanics have been off. The accuracy's been off. Let's see how he responds after a bye week.
So this is a game between two quarterbacks, Dalton and Arch Manning and DJ Lagway, that ended the year with a ton of hype, but both have been either mildly disappointing or very disappointing so far. You have DJ Lagway, the Florida offense, in this game against a really good Texas defense, which we know on that side of the ball.
I mean, you should just know in general that this Florida offense, it's really not one particular area that's killing them. This entire offense has been a struggle. I mean, you even just look at their last three games, right? They scored 16 points on South Florida. They scored 10 points on LSU. Yes, a very good defense, but 10 points. And then 7 points on Miami. Now, that's two elite defenses, and I think still a pretty good one in USF. But you still talk about the Florida Gators. Their last three games have scored 33 points. And the biggest problem they're having is that DJ Lagway, top 5 deep passing grade last year in the country, is just not getting it done downfield. His last three games, let's take out the game against Long Island to start the year. No offense to the Sharks, but we're going to take that out here. The last three games, USF, LSU, and Miami, 56.4 passing grade. This is a guy who some think could have been a Heisman contender this year. 5.4 yards per attempt. 3 big-time throws, 7 turnover-worthy plays. Most of those, I believe 5 or 6 it was against LSU.
That last number is alarming.
0 deep completions. 0 in 3 games. Put the cap on it, make him beat you underneath. Right now, he's not doing it. You know the only deep completion DJ Lagway has this season?
What was it?
The Vernell Brown catch against Long Island. The Odell Beckham Vernell Brown catch.
Yeah.
Do you know the only deep completion that Texas has given up this season?
The Carnell Tate touchdown?
The Carnell Tate touchdown.
Yeah.
That's the only deep completion they've given up this season. Pete Kwiatkowski's going to do the same thing to DJ Lagway that everyone else has done. They're going to sit back in zone coverage, and nobody does zone coverage right now, especially with all the movement and rotations like Pete Kwiatkowski. He's going to make him beat him underneath. He's going to make him beat him with the run game and Jaden Baugh, but Texas run defense is still very good. I would expect Florida actually to want to come out and run the football to try to set up Lagway for some of these deep shots, but Florida is having a problem because their greatest asset, DJ Lagway's arm, and the ability to throw it deep has been completely shut down early in the season. The task does not get any easier this week against Michael Taft and that Texas secondary. Florida's got to find a way to create explosive plays, or they're in for another day like they've had the last 3 games.
Yeah, I've got the Texas offense. I'm talking about Arch Manning on this side of the ball too, and I'm looking at, can Florida get any sort of pressure on Arch Manning in this game? Because Florida entered the year with my number 4 defensive line in college football. I thought Florida's defensive line was one of the elite units that we had in the nation this year. But through the first month of the season so far, they have really, really struggled to get any sort of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Right now, Florida has a 23.5% pressure rate this year. That's the lowest in the entire Power 4 right now. Now, I will say, injuries have played a major part in why Florida's defensive line has struggled. Star D-tackle Caleb Banks has only played in 1 game this year due to a foot injury. Edge rusher LJ McCray has a broken foot right now. Fellow edge rusher George Gums Jr. Missed last week's loss to Miami with an undisclosed injury. And also starting nose tackle Michael Boyroe has missed the last 2 games. So they have had a ton of injuries along that defensive line right now. Really, it's just Tyreek Sapp by himself, it feels like, on that defensive line right now. with the rebuilt offensive line that Texas has right now with 4 new starters on that offensive line, they're only 101st in the country in pressure rate allowed at about 34%. And Arch Manning is only 77th in the country in adjusted completion rate under pressure at about 59%. If the Gators can't get Arch Manning under consistent pressure in this game, he could find success against their secondary, because right now Arch Manning has about an 88 PFF grade when kept clean this year and an 85.2 career passing grade against zone coverage. And Florida runs zone coverage at the 3rd highest rate in the country right now at about 84%. So Arch Manning, if he has clean pockets all day, could really have a good day against Florida's defense.
Yeah, it's going to be the contrast in scheme there is big, and it's going to be big to see if Florida comes out of a bye week with a different mentality. Ohio State attacked Arch Manning mostly in that game, and it worked. It got him rattled in the road environment. I think for Arch Manning, it's about composure, because you look at his grades so far this season, 83.6 overall grade. He's been really good in a clean pocket still, but it still feels inconsistent, and it feels the difference for me between these two quarterbacks is the last 2 weeks especially, I've seen DJ Lagway's decision-making really waver, especially from the pocket. Now, Arch has made a couple of bad decisions too, I think, especially as he has to improvise outside the pocket, but the biggest thing with Arch is just missing throws, missing open throws. He starts making those open throws that he's seeing, because I don't think he's seeing the field at a horrible rate. I think there's been some bad decisions, but he's a young kid who's just trying to figure it out and get reps. In that first Ohio State game, it's still Ohio State, as we've seen so far. I think he should theoretically feel comfortable against a Florida pass rush that's not getting it done. Will he go out there and do that? That's the big question.
So you look at Arch Manning's PFF grades right now. He had a 72.2 passing grade against Ohio State, which is really buoyed by the fact that he had an awesome final 8 minutes of that ball game. It wasn't very pretty for him before those final 8 minutes. Then 80.8 against San Jose State. And then against UTEP, 47.1 passing grade. And then the last game against Sam Houston State, 91.7. So he's been really kind of a roller coaster this year as Arch Manning.
He's a young kid, right?
Yeah.
He's a young kid who before this season, made 2 starts. Now he's into his 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th start, now going into his 7th start, right? And I think coming off a bye week, it was probably a very well-timed bye week for Texas.
I agree.
Especially for Steve Sarkisian and Arch Manning to sit back, watch the tape for a week and go, hey, this is the checklist. These are the things we got to check off. You're still our starter. I know there's all the noise, but get out there and just play football and play loose. Isn't there times it felt like he's been tight?
Yeah.
He just doesn't, like all the pressure is just a little bit in his head. Come out here and play loose, and against this Florida team, he might have an opportunity to do so.
Yeah, the first SEC game for Texas this year to Dalton. Ultimately, who will win this game? Will Texas, prove like, hey, we're still a legitimate national title contender this year, even with the loss to Ohio State? Or will Florida and Billy Napier get a massive and much-needed victory right now?
I do think this is still going to be a tough test. Florida's defense, the pass rush hasn't been great, but Florida's defense as a whole has still been pretty good, right? They held Miami to 26 and wore down eventually LSU. They only actually held to 13 when you look at the offensive points scored. It's in the swamp. They're going to be loud. This feels like the Gators' last stand too, right? They have to come out with adrenaline and play well in this game. I do think there's going to be some bumps for Texas. I think there's going to be some bumps and moments for Manning where Florida could tilt the game in their favor, but I think at the end of the day, the best unit on this football field is Texas defense, especially their secondary and all the different looks that Pete Kwiatkowski can throw at DJ Lagway, as long as they don't let Jaden Baugh be the best player on the field. I like Texas defense. I think this spread is about right. I have it Texas 23 and Florida 16. I think we're getting a defensive game. I think Manning shows some progress. He plays solid enough. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire in this game, again, because Florida's their secondary is playing at least better than it did the last couple seasons. But I think at the end of the day, Florida's offense, it's struggling, and it's going to be very hard to get back on track against Kwiatkowski in this defense.
Yep. I have Texas as well. Very similar score. I have it 27-14. I think Lagway will really struggle against a really stout Texas defense. And Manning thrives, which should be squeaky clean pockets against Florida's zone defense in this one, too. I think Arch Manning will have a good day. I don't think DJ Lagway will have a good day against Texas's defense. So I have Texas beating Florida 27-14 as well. All right, next up at 3:30, Boise State at number 21 Notre Dame. This game is on NBC and Peacock. The storyline is Notre Dame's redemption tour continues right now. So Notre Dame started its season with a couple losses to current top 5 or 6 teams in Miami and Texas A&M. 2 games that the Fighting Irish lost by a combined 4 points. Essentially, Notre Dame cannot lose another game the rest of the year if they want to make it back to the college football playoff. And they've rebounded nicely over the last 2 weeks with wins over Purdue and Arkansas, winning both of them by an average of 34.5 points in those 2 games. The Fighting Irish now take on a Boise State squad that's rebounded really nicely from their season opening loss to USF. They're right now 3-1 on the season, and right now the 7th best odds of any Group of 5 team at plus 800 to make the college football playoff, according to DraftKings Sportsbook right now, too.
Yeah, no, I think what you have here, I think on the Boise side of this as well, is possibly a playoff elimination game. I think winning this game somehow in South Bend would get them squarely back in it, because I think you could argue this would be the best win that any I think it'd be the best win that any Group of 5 team has over a Power 5 team. That would be huge, and then you get back into the thick of the Mountain West race, likely with UNLV, another playoff contender, but you're back in it. If they lose this game and they have, especially if they lose it convincingly, and they have a convincing loss to Notre Dame and a very convincing loss to USF, a dominant effort by USF in week 1, then you go, okay, even if Boise wins the Mountain West, would that be enough to overtake a champion from the American, or maybe somebody like in Ohio, or somebody from the MAC or something, or a Sun Belt, something like that? Would it be enough? I think there's a very real scenario where on both sides of this is a playoff elimination. If Notre Dame loses this game, absolutely they're done. That's their 3rd loss. They would be to Boise State. They'd be done.
Yeah.
I think if Boise State loses this game, obviously they still have a chance to win the Mountain West, and they can go and dominate the Mountain West, but with 2 losses, we'll see where that goes. Last year, it was different because their 1 loss was buzzer beater to Oregon. This could be an elimination game for the playoff, at least for Boise as well.
I agree with that. All right, so you have the Notre Dame offense in this game, which Dalton very recently has decided to run the football a lot more. So what should we know when the Fighting Irish have the ball in this game?
I think we're getting to a point I usually have one specific thing or a schematic bit or something like that. I think we're at a point where even with the losses, we just have to call Notre Dame's offense what it is. This is an elite unit. C.J. Carr, the way he's playing. Jeremiah Love, the increased usage after week 1. Jadarian Price has been great. Guys on the outside like Jordan Faison and Malachi Fields, Eli Raridan at tight end. The offensive line is still trying to figure it out a little bit, but they're working around it with all these athletes they have. Just look at the last 2 weeks for Notre Dame. 112 points, 56 in each game. The only team who has scored more points in the last 2 weeks, those Vanderbilt Commodores, of course. 3rd best offensive grade, highest EPA per play. Last 2 games, only 2 games here. 17 explosive runs, 19 explosive passes. I don't even think.
And by the way, those last 2 weeks' numbers are great. Obviously, they also scored 40 against Texas A&M and 24 against the best D line in the country in Miami.
24, and I was gonna get there. 56 2 weeks in a row. No, you're good. You're good. 56 2 weeks in a row. 40 against A&M, a good Mike Elko defense, and 24 on Miami. When the other teams, I believe the other 3 teams combined that they've played have scored 22 combined on Miami, and that was a night when, again, we talked about a lot with Jeremiah Love and all that. Notre Dame, they didn't know their identity yet in that game. They're throwing screens. Jeremiah Love had, 10 touches in that game it was, or 12? Yeah. I mean, they didn't have their identity yet, and it's C.J. Carr's first start, and they scored 24 on Miami. There's a chance that without getting even into one specific thing, that Notre Dame's offense is just an absolute wagon, because that's what they've basically looked like for outside of the first half of the Miami game. That's what they've looked like. In the last 2 weeks, I mean, again, 56 2 weeks in a row. I don't think there's one specific challenge right now that you're dealing with when you play against Notre Dame. C.J. Carr has been great, accurate, finding open guys. Jeremiah Love sure looks like Jeremiah Love again. Jadarian Price, one of the best number 2 backs in the country. The receivers, the tight ends. If you're going to beat Notre Dame at this point, you have to beat them up front with the offensive line, because it's still not a very highly graded unit. They're working around it a little bit. But how many teams in the country can do that at that level? At the level Miami did, and still had to win on a buzzer beater. And Marcel Reed and A&M had to score 41, and the botched extra point and all of that. Who knows how high scoring that game could have been if it gone to overtime instead, right? So I think this Notre Dame offense, you just look at it in every dimension. boy, Boise State has a laundry list of challenges we could go over right now.
Definitely. I'm looking at the Boise State run game against Notre Dame's run defense. So even though Ashton Jeanty is gone and now had a great game this past week for the Las Vegas Raiders,
Sure did.
The Jeanty that we know was starring for the Raiders this past weekend, even though he's gone, one of the best running backs we've seen in college football in recent memory, Boise State's offense is still centered around its ability to run the football. Right now, Boise State is 12th in the country in run blocking grade this year at 73.3. They have the 21st best rushing grade this year, 85.6, and also 21st in yards per attempt at 6.3. But unlike last year, where it was a one-man show with Ashton Jeanty, Boise State has a much more of a committee backfield this season. Dylan Riley has 48 carries for 360 yards and a 76.2 rushing grade. Sire Gaines, 38 carries for 246 yards and an 80.4 rushing grade. And Malik Sherrod, 34 carries for 198 yards and a 78.2 rushing grade. So 3 running backs that have at least 30 carries so far for Boise State this year. Also, Boise State's run game has a direct effect on how good Maddox Madsen is as a passer. He has an 80.9 career passing grade with play action, only a 67.1 career passing grade without play action. Notre Dame's pass defense has been unexpectedly concerning to start the year, but their run defense has been really, really solid. Right now, 86.8 run defense grade on the year. That's top 40 in the country. 4.3 yards per attempt allowed. That's 44th in the country. And Notre Dame has only missed a tackle on 10% of opposing run plays this year. That's the 9th best rate in the Power 4. So, yeah, Notre Dame's defense has been concerning this year, but that's mostly their pass rush and their coverage right now. The run defense has been at least solid, and now you're going against a really good Boise State ground game.
Big week, I think. Not maybe, every week's a big week, but big week, I think, in this matchup for Drake Bowen and those Notre Dame linebackers. And to your point about Boise State's run blocking, think about what Jeanty was working through last year. Boise State was 62nd in the nation in run blocking grade, very average, even playing most of their games in the Mountain West, right? Last year, they had 2 games the entire season where their run blocking grade was above 70. They've got 2 of the last 3 games they've played this year with run blocking grades above 70. 14th in the nation, you mentioned it?
12th.
12th in the nation run blocking. It's a lot better, and that obviously makes life a whole lot easier for Dylan Riley, for Sire Gaines, and those backs to really just get those explosive runs and get more space. Imagine if Ashton Jeanty had this run. He probably would have broke that Barry Sanders record.
He probably would have won a Heisman, honestly.
Well, yeah, it might have. 3,000 yards? Where are we going with that? Anyway, that's all theoretical.
Poor Eli, who had the Jeanty Heisman back.
Honestly, I'm glad you had to bring it up.
Probably cursing us back there.
You just had to bring it up. Jeez. Yeah. Oh, boy. He's
got a juicy Ruben Bain one now going right now.
He sure does. Well, because he knows ball, right? But the idea, as always with Boise State, because you don't want to put Maddox, and I know they played great. I know they've scored 47 points at least in 3 straight games, and Madsen's been great through those 3 games. But in big spots here, Maddox Madsen is still not necessarily the quarterback you want to ask to carry you. They have to get probably at least 2 to 250 from Riley and Gaines combined and slow this game down and keep that Notre Dame offense, C.J. Carr, and that offense off the field, because if this gets to be a shootout, I definitely like Notre Dame better in that scenario. Slow the game down, ball control, run the ball with those 2 backs.
So in what could be, or really what is, a playoff elimination game for both Notre Dame and Boise State, who will win in South Bend?
I just think Notre Dame's, I think the offense at least. Defense was better last week against Arkansas. We saw how that went. I think it's Notre Dame offensive wagon. And I've thought since the USF game that Boise State, I have it 45-21 Notre Dame. I'm getting Boise State some points in there. I would not be shocked if it looks pretty similar to the last 2 Notre Dame games. I just think Boise State's lack of speed, the fact that Notre Dame, the real weakness right now is in pass defense, especially in the secondary with some of the injuries. Do we know if Leonard Moore is back this week? Even if he's
don't
not,
know.
Even if he's not, I'm not wicked concerned.
It's questionable. Yeah.
I'm not wicked concerned about it in this matchup. If we get to like the USC game and things like that, then I'm worried about it. But I just think this Notre Dame offense is firing on all cylinders, and I know Boise's is also. But we're talking about they're playing Eastern Washington, Air Force. They beat in a high-scoring game, and Air Force defense is a real problem. And App State's just not that great. So I think Notre Dame gets this pretty handily at home, especially again. For both of these teams, but for Notre Dame especially, just the level of urgency. And you can feel it. The way they've played the last 2 weeks against Arkansas, you could feel.
Even against A&M, you could feel it too.
You could feel it in that game, and obviously special teams hurt them, and the game went the way, and Marcel Reed made a great play at the end. But you can feel the urgency of we used all our room for error. It's gone. And the way they've played, especially like the first half against Arkansas, you really can't play a more perfect first half than that. I've got Notre Dame big, 45-21. I think there's a chance this could look a lot like the last two Notre Dame games.
I have it big as well. A little closer, though, 38-20. I have Notre Dame over Boise State. Notre Dame's offense is on fire right now. They're averaging over 50 points per game over their last 3 games. And I think the Fighting Irish find more success against Boise State. And I think the run defense will hold up just enough against the Broncos, too. So I have Notre Dame winning by 18 points, 38-20 over Boise State. All right, next up in our preview, another 3:30 game. Number 24, Virginia at Louisville. Again, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. The storyline to know is really, okay, how legit is Virginia right now? So Tony Elliott, their head coach, he won a combined 11 games over his first 3 years, and Virginia had mediocre expectations this year. He was on the hot seat entering the year too. But right now, the Cavaliers are making major waves in college football right now. They have a 4-1 record that includes a thrilling double overtime victory over 8th-ranked Florida State this past Friday. Now, Virginia, for the first time in 6 years, is ranked in the top 25, but still, even so, Dalton, they're 7.5-point underdogs on the road against a Louisville team that right now is 4-0, and a Louisville team that's not ranked in the AP top 25, but is number 25 in the PFF top 25.
Yeah, no, I think for Virginia, I mean, it always takes more than one to get people to believe, right? I think that's a big thing for Virginia right now. Now, the Florida State win is huge. It's huge for Tony Elliott. It's huge for the program. But now can you stack back-to-back weeks, especially off of, again, double overtime, unbelievable football game, unbelievably emotional football game with all the swings and momentum you had. The good news is I think having that extra day of rest playing on Friday, I think that does help them a little bit with the reset. But this is a tough opponent you're going to. Louisville's undefeated. They've had a couple of close games against James Madison, and last week against Pitt, there was some early struggles, and their defense made big plays at the end too. Miller Moss with a huge touchdown throw to put them ahead. But this is a tough test. But you look at Virginia, and I know you get ahead of things a little bit here. You win this Louisville game, your remaining ACC games are North Carolina, Cal, Wake Forest, Duke, Virginia Tech. You win this Louisville game if you're the Cavaliers, and remember the NC State loss is not a conference game. Mm-hmm. It's a whole thing with the out-of-conference cancellation, all that. It's not a conference game. So you get that sort of runway, you start feeling really good about where you're at in the ACC race if you're Virginia. Louisville's got some tough games coming ahead of them.
Playoff race too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, that's the part where the NC State loss might hurt them a little.
Sure.
But
sure.
Get a win over Florida State. If you get a win over Louisville, we start, just like Vandy, we start having these conversations, real conversations. But this is, you could argue, Virginia's biggest stage game left on the schedule because Louisville's really good too. This is going to be a fun game. It is. And I think the urgency from both of these teams is going to be very, very high.
Well, Virginia and why they're all of a sudden making this great comeback from what they've been the last few years has been really their offense, Dalton. It's been phenomenal so far. They won in a shootout over Florida State this past Friday. What should we know with their offense against Louisville's defense?
You're darn right. Virginia in their 4 wins has scored at least 46 points in all of them. That's pretty darn good. I mean, when you have a gunslinger like Chandler Morris, you can do that. We've seen in the past he's had some success at TCU, dealt with some injuries back then. High-flying offense at North Texas last year. Now he's at Virginia doing the same thing. I think this game on both sides comes down to Chandler Morris and Miller Moss, which one handles pressure better? Who's got the answers for pressure? Who's not going to give the game away under pressure? Now, Chandler Morris under pressure this year has been really, really good. 9th best passing grade under pressure, 73.1. 4th in completion percentage. 20 first downs he's picked up under pressure, second most in the country behind Damon Williams for Washington. And the big thing with Morris, because he's a gunslinger and he came from an offense at North Texas where they were throwing down the field constantly, under pressure, only an 8.4-yard average depth of target. That's 125th in the country. And to be honest with you, considering his previous style of play, kind of like that. Now, I like the way Trevor puts this sometimes, the quarterback outside the pocket. Sometimes you get the angel and the devil on your shoulder a little bit. The devil on one shoulder got him twice last week because there was 2 interceptions he threw against Florida State outside the pocket last week. Concerning. They kept Florida, those 2 picks specifically really kept Florida State in the game. It's those moments when Chandler Morris is going to have to be really smart with the football in this game. How can he handle pressure? Also, right now, just a 4% pressure to sack rate, 6th lowest in the FBS. Great stuff and how Chandler Morris is handling pressure so far. The problem now, it's ratcheted up this week. So you would think, oh, it's Miami, it's Texas Tech, it's Ohio State. Who's leading the nation in pass rush grade right now? The Louisville Cardinals. Who's leading the nation in pressure rate right now? The Louisville Cardinals. And they're second in pass rush win rate behind Miami. A.J. Green on one edge, Clev Lubin on the other. Guys like Rene Conga on the inside. I mean, this defensive line for Louisville is a serious, serious problem. And Chandler Morris is going to see more pressure in his face in this game than in any of the other games. And at any time, too, it's not just that they send 4. Like, you got some other teams that don't blitz at all because they don't have to. But on any given play, you could have Antonio Watts coming screaming off the slot. You could have TJ Quinn coming, punching through the A-gap. Louisville's got options up front. Clev Lubin is leading the nation in pass rush grade.
He's been unreal.
A.J. Green is leading the Power 4 in pass rush win rate. They've got monsters up front on this defensive line, especially for Louisville. How Chandler Morris handles pressure in this, if he does it at the top 10 level he's done the first few weeks, Virginia's absolutely got a shot to go in and win this game. How he handles pressure is going to be the X factor because there's going to be a ton of it. It's the reason Pitt lost last week because their quarterbacks could not handle it after a while.
Yeah.
This week, Chandler Morris has to be the same way he's been, cool under pressure. The 2 interceptions last week outside the pocket concern me. He's got to be smart with the football because if the pressure gets him and he starts turning the football over like the turnover-worthy plays are still in there somewhere. They're in there, and I think he's got 7 this year. Got to be careful with the football. Cool under pressure is the key for Chandler Morris.
And some people might say, okay, well, he's top 10 in the country under pressure. He's going to be great again under pressure. The one thing I'll say for that is under pressure metrics are extremely unstable.
Week to week, they can change.
They change wildly. I mean, look at a guy like Spencer Rattler, for example, who out of structure under pressure at Oklahoma in his 1 year was outstanding. The very next year, why he got benched for Caleb Williams was terrible under pressure, right? So it changes week to week, game to game, and the stable metrics are from a clean pocket. How good are you from a clean pocket? That usually remains the same week to week, season to season, and all that. My matchup to watch is really similar. It's in the trenches. Louisville's offensive line against Virginia's defensive line. There's a lot going right for Louisville's offense this year. Right now, they're 25th in rushing grade as a team. Isaac Brown, when he gets the football, has been phenomenal. Hasn't gotten the ball as much as I or probably Louisville fans want him to get this year. He's still been great, though. Quarterback Miller Moss is a very solid 74.9 PFF grade, and there are really exciting receivers on that offense like Chris Bell and like Colin Lacey. But right now, Louisville has serious issues up front with their offensive line. Their offensive line grade is 58.8. That's 109th in college football, right around where teams like Clemson are right now. They're 93rd in pass blocking grade this year in the country. They're 121st in run blocking grade this year right now. So you look at Miller Moss, when he's under pressure, a 56% adjusted completion rate. That's 91st in the country. For reference, that number jumps up a lot when he's kept clean as well. Those offensive line struggles also could be a reason why Louisville only runs the ball on 42% of their plays this year. Even with a star running back in Isaac Brown, their run rate right now is 104th in the country. Virginia's defensive line, 27th in the country in grade as a unit at 81, and they're 24th in run defense grade at 82.2. They have a really good duo of edge rushers in Daniel Rickert and Mitchell Melton. Both of them are in the top 10 of the ACC in pressures right now. But I will say, a lot of those numbers for their defensive line are buoyed by games against Coastal Carolina, William & Mary, and Stanford. Against NC State and against Florida State, Virginia's defensive line has a 65.7 grade as a unit. So again, 82.2 on the season, but 65.7 against their tougher games in NC State and Florida State right now. So I'm looking at who will win up front. Virginia's defensive line, if they win up front, that could present a lot of issues for Louisville's offense in this game. But if not, Louisville's got the running backs, the receivers, and a solid quarterback to take advantage of Virginia's defense.
And Louisville, when I look at him, and Miller Moss's, a lot of his struggles have been against the blitz, and the offensive line has had some struggles picking up blitzes as well. Curious to see if Virginia jacks up the blitz rate a little bit. They're like right at the national average, right around 38% with their pass blitz rate. Are they going to bring extra pressure and disturb Miller Moss? Because the big thing with Moss is, look, he's a good quarterback, smart quarterback, very accurate. He's not going to move much. He doesn't have a whole lot of improvisational type answers. He's been sacked 8 times this year. So if Virginia does jack up the blitz rate to bother that offensive line and to bother Moss and to get Moss into situations where he throws it before he wants to, I think that works to the Cavaliers' advantage here. But that's why it's so important to run the football too if you're Louisville and find ways to run it against a pretty good Virginia defensive line, because if you get in better down and distance situations, if you're in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 instead of 3rd and 10, they're not going to pin their ears back and send all those blitzes and try to confuse you and get you to get rid of the football quicker. So I do think Louisville still has to find a way to run the football and get themselves in good down and distances against his defense.
By the way, Miller Moss, 56% adjusted completion rate under pressure, 80.2% when he's kept clean this year.
Oh, sure. I mean, we talked about it before. Moss in a clean pocket, when he can just see that he's so cerebral and accurate when his feet can get set, he just doesn't have answers beyond generally the structure of the play, right? He's going to get rid of the football and get it somewhere. So finding a way to get quick pressure on Moss. I think on both sides, that's what this game comes down to. Which team can disrupt the other quarterback in the pocket more? And I know that's the case for a lot of games, but especially in this one with, again, Moss doesn't have a lot of second reaction to him. And Morris, sometimes he's been really good, but there's sometimes that little devil on his shoulder talks to him going, hey, you could get the ball in that window. So that's going to be big. Which quarterback handles pressure better?
So, Dalton, this is another game where a ranked opponent is going on the road to an unranked opponent, and the unranked opponent is favored. And last time you took Cincinnati to beat Iowa State. Will you do the same here in this Virginia-Louisville game?
I am going to do the same here. I like Louisville's talent. The offensive line is concerning. Anytime your offensive line isn't playing great, that's a road for victory for the other team here, right? But I think for me the difference is going to be Miller Moss, he's keeping us cool, and he is calm and cool. I mean, the way he operates, and I think Isaac Brown needs to have a big game here for Louisville as well, breaking tackles and making explosive runs happen. I think Louisville's defense, I think the front seven is the difference in this game. That defensive line with Clev Lubin and A.J. Green and those guys, that's a really darn good unit that I think a lot of teams in the ACC are going to struggle with. And again, Virginia, yes, they beat Florida State, right? But, okay, the other Power 4 win is Stanford. They lost to NC State. Tight game, but they lost to them. The defense overall has been giving up a lot of points even in their wins. And let's bear in mind against Florida State, that's a Friday night game at home, super loud crowd, double overtime. It still took because Tommy Castellanos was just making heroic plays, and Deuce Robinson on the outside, they had no answer for him. Chris Bell and Colin Lacey on the outside are a real problem too. I think Louisville has enough answers to get this done. 31-24 Cardinals.
I've got Louisville winning this game as well. I have it 34 to 24. I have Louisville winning this ball game too. I just think Louisville's defense right now is top 10 in the country in defensive grade this year. And yeah, I know Drake Holiday makes a great point in the chat. They haven't really played a tough competition yet. They beat Pitt this past weekend, but I still think Louisville's legit on defense, and they have legit playmakers on offense too. I think they'll slow down the Cavaliers' red-hot offense enough in this game, and I think Louisville's weapons will lead Louisville to a victory as well.
I think Louisville, look, Pitt's an okay team. They're a probably borderline bowl-eligible team, depending on the quarterback situation right now. And look, I don't think we should sell short James Madison. That's a good football team too, and that was a tough game on a Friday night. I don't think Louisville's played nobody. I also don't think Louisville has played their best football yet. I agree with that part. So they're going to have to be a little bit better, I think, than they've been in past weeks. But to go on the road into Pitt and get a win against still a good Pat Narduzzi defense, that's a tough task. I just still think that comes down to, I know it's so often is the quarterbacks, but which one handles pressure better? And I think the fact that Louisville can get pressure far more often, that makes a big difference too.
So we both have Louisville winning that ball game. Drake Holiday has Virginia pulling it out. It should be an awesome game, though, at 3-3 between those two teams in the ACC. Before we move on to the final four games of our preview, got to talk about the sponsor of the show, that is Fabric by Gerber Life. There are some things school doesn't really teach you, like how to handle the financial world, or that you have to plan now for a successful future later. And that includes for your kids. Fabric makes it easy for you to set up an investment account for your child now that grows with them and helps prepare for their financial future. Fabric Gerber Life is designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can invest when they're minors, but a UGMA kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf now and gives those investments more time to grow. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000, plus no commission fees and just a low flat monthly maintenance fee. You can share your child's unique gifting link with family and friends, so instead of giving them more things they'll outgrow for birthdays and special occasions, they can help grow your child's investments instead. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. That's meetfabric.com/PFFcollege, meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. This is a paid promotion for the Fabric UGMA product and not for investment advisory services. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Custodial services are provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing risk terms may apply. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right. Next up in our preview, getting to the night slate now, we got number 11 Texas Tech at Houston, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. A pair of undefeated Big 12 teams are squaring off in this game. Two of the final four remaining undefeated teams right now in the Big 12. Right now, the Red Raiders are 4-0 on the season. They're the highest-ranked team in the conference at number 11 in the AP poll, and they're the favorites to win the Big 12 right now at plus 180 on DraftKings Sportsbook. The Cougars are not ranked, but they have a 4-0 record themselves. It's Houston's best start in 9 years, and if they can pull it off this week at home against Texas Tech, they will join the top 25 most likely for the first time since 2022 as well.
No, Houston, this is prove it week. You get a shot to prove it at home against a team that a lot think is the best in the Big 12. Houston, look, they're off to a great start. They're putting themselves on track to possibly, obviously, make a bowl game with a 4-0 start. They certainly look better than last year. I don't think there's any question that Houston is much improved from last year. I just think when you're looking at this team now, you go, okay, this is the first big test. All right, Stephen F. Austin, Rice, Colorado, Oregon State. I think I might have said this on the review show too, but that Oregon State game, when they went down 14 with about 12 minutes to go, I'll be honest, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I went to bed. I thought that game was over, and they came back and scored 17 unanswered on Oregon State. This is the game now where you can't have those sorts of slip-ups, right? I think the Colorado game is the best game that Houston has played this season. I really do. They were really good front to back in that game, but this is the test now. This Texas Tech team, they've proven it. They're really darn good. They've got a little bit of everything. So we'll see if Houston can come out here at home and really put their best foot forward and show us how good they are.
In Houston's first 2 years in the Big 12, they had a 4-8 record in both years. Now they're 4-0. They've already matched the win total from their last 2 years in the Big 12 too. So great start for Willie Fritz and the Houston program right now, but like Dalton said, a major test this week against the current favorite to win the Big 12 Conference. Dalton, you have the Houston offense against what is one of the most elite defensive lines that we have in college football in Texas Tech.
Yeah, that's where this starts. And I know we've talked about this Texas Tech defensive line endlessly for months. And I promise when we do a future Texas Tech game, I'm going to talk about the improvement in the back seven as well, because that needs to be talked about. I just can't do it in this matchup because Texas Tech, first of all, let's go over them and their production real quick. 5th in the nation in pass rush grade, 22nd in pressure rate, 26th in pass rush win rate. That's also including a game against Utah, which we know to be an elite offensive line. This is an elite defensive line when you talk about David Bailey, Romello Height, Lee Hunter, Skylar Gilhoward, A.J. Holmes. Charles Esters, when he's healthy, is a good player. Jaden Cofield's a good player. They are just loaded on the defensive line. Houston, as you saw in that graphic, they have the lowest pass blocking grade in the Power 4 at a 36. Against those opponents I just mentioned, Stephen F. Austin, Rice, Colorado, Oregon State. Against Colorado, despite dominating that game, they had a 15 pass blocking grade in that game.
Jeez.
Lowest in the Power 4, third lowest in the nation. If they can't pass, there's a serious concern for any team that plays Texas Tech in pass protection with those four guys. And of course, as expected, with all those monsters up front, Texas Tech don't have to blitz for it. They got a bottom 20 pass blitz rate, as you might expect, because why would they send any extras when all those monsters up there are winning all the time? This is the big problem. Houston, this is the game to me. They're not great in obvious passing situations anyway. I like the way that Stephon Johnson stepped up last week at wide receiver. Tanner Koziol is an NFL tight end. He's a really good player, but Houston cannot get behind the chains this week. They have to run the football well with Dean Connors and Connor Wigman, because in 3rd and 10 in this matchup with the way they've been pass protecting, well, I'd almost walk off the field. I would almost punt it on 3rd down like they do in Canada. This is not a good matchup for a Houston team up front that has been struggling very much to pass protect. You're getting one of the best in the business with this Texas Tech pass rush.
Yeah, it's a big mismatch for them right there. I'm looking at Baron Morton in this game against Houston's zone defense. So Baron Morton got hurt in their last game against number 16 Utah a couple weeks ago due to a concussion. His backup, redshirt freshman Will Hammond, came in and had a 96 PFF grade in the game and led the Red Raiders to a 34-10 road victory over Utah. But now that Morton's clear concussion protocol, head coach Joey McGuire put any quarterback controversy to bed by listing the redshirt senior as his starter this week. So it will not be Will Hammond. It will be Baron Morton as a starting quarterback for Texas Tech. Now, maybe if Morton struggles a little bit
for the whole game,
maybe Will Hammond comes in. We'll see. But I'll treat it as if Morton is a starter for the entire game in this one. He actually has an opportunity this week to remind many people why he was a starter in the first place, because right now Houston has the 6th worst pass rush grade in the Power 4. Baron Morton has a 90.1 passing grade when kept clean. That's top 20 in college football. And the Cougars right now do have the 2nd best coverage grade in the entire country. But it also might be a good situation for Morton in this game too, because Houston plays zone coverage at the 2nd highest rate in the Power 4 at about 85% zone coverage rate. Baron Morton has an 89.5 passing grade against zone coverage this year. That's a top 15 mark in the entire country. 79% completion rate against zone coverage is 7th among all quarterbacks in the country too. And Dalton, his passer rating against zone coverage is 149.9. That is tied for the best in America with Fernando Mendoza at Indiana right now. So Baron Morton, great from a clean pocket, and Houston does not have a very good pass rush. And Baron Morton also is elite against zone coverage, and Houston runs exclusively, really, zone coverage too. But I will say Houston has the 2nd best coverage grade in the country right now. It could present some issues for Baron Morton.
How about this stat? 7 different defensive backs for Houston who have played at least 60 coverage snaps have at least a 70 coverage grade. They're deep. They are talented. They definitely have some guys, especially at corner. You look at guys like Mark Stampley, Zelmar Vetter, Will James. They've gotten talented guys out there at corner, and this is a defense that Willie Fritz designed. It's the same way he played it at Tulane. They play from the top down. They keep things in front of them. They make tackles. They allow Carlos Allen and that big defensive line to stop the run. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch, too. Can Houston stop the run and put Baron Morton in bad situations where he does have to throw vertically into the teeth of that zone coverage? I think you're absolutely right. Houston's defense has to keep them in this game, but that's what they've been doing so far. They don't generally give up big shots down the field. If you're going to score on Houston, you're going to earn it 8, 10, 12 plays at a time.
Definitely. All right, Dalton, ultimately, who are you taking? And 2 undefeated teams in the Big 12. Will Texas Tech pull it off and show why they're the favorite, or will Houston get a huge upset?
I just struggle to see how Houston's going to score. I think it's a real problem in this game. I think when you look at this Texas Tech team, what they did to Utah, they held Utah to 10 or 13? It was 10. They held Utah to 10 in Utah. With that offensive line, with Devin Dampier, with a much more, I think, dynamic offense than Houston, I have a hard time seeing Houston scoring. I think their defense could keep them in it, maybe even keep them in it for a while, the way that they play it. And if they, if they can bother the receivers and if Baron Morton's going to get impatient and not get those big shots downfield, then you talk about, okay, Houston's keeping themselves in this. I have this Texas Tech 30-10. I think there is a scenario where it's worse than that. I know spreads and things like that have this at 11 or so right now.
11.5, yeah.
I just very much struggle to see to think of a way that Houston is going to score, because even the two best parts of their offense are, okay, Tanner Koziol is good, legit NFL tight end, love him. But then I look at the run game and Dean Connors and Connor Wigman. There's not a lot of speed on this Houston offense, especially in the backfield. And I look at, even in that sense, the D-line, and boy, what Jacob Rodriguez is doing at linebacker, you're going to get some hard-hitting reps between Dean Connors and Jacob Rodriguez. I'll tell you that right now. That's the biggest problem for me, is Houston putting drives together and figuring out. Because, again, until the last, I think it was 8 minutes against Oregon State, they had 10 points in that game. And Oregon State doesn't have a win this season. I just think Houston's offense has a lot of flaws. 30-10, Texas Tech.
Yeah, I have Houston winning as well and covering 34-17. I'm with you. I really struggle to see how Houston's going to really put up consistent points in this game. I think Texas Tech will dominate in the trenches on both sides of the ball in this game too, because Houston, like you said, Dalton, has the worst pass blocking grade in the Power 4 and one of the worst pass rushing grades in the Power 4 too. So I think Texas Tech gets their second straight road Big 12 victory over an undefeated opponent just like Utah. They get another one here in Houston to show why, once again, they're the favorite in the Big 12 conference right now. And I picked them to win the Big 12 preseason, so I feel pretty good about that right now.
You're looking good right now.
The way they're looking.
Long way to go. It's only week 6. We got a long way to go.
They're in the Big 12. We got a long, long way to go for sure. But I do think Texas Tech will win pretty convincingly on Saturday night. We have a guy in the chat, Dalton, DeAndre Toole, saying, get to the Miami game already. This is a huge game. Everyone wants to know, I'm sure, this Miami preview right now, because this is a huge, huge game. Saturday night, number 3 Miami at number 18 Florida State right now. It's one of the biggest games of the year, maybe the biggest game of the year in the ACC. Right now, Miami is the highest-ranked team in the conference. Florida State is the 3rd highest-ranked team, the ACC right behind Georgia Tech. The Hurricanes and Seminoles are also bitter rivals. They've met every year since 1969. This year's matchup is also the first one since 2016 where both teams are ranked. Also the first matchup since 2013 where both teams are in the top 20 of the AP poll too. Miami trying to show they should be the number 1 team in the country right now. Florida State, meanwhile, trying to get their season back on track following a heartbreaking double overtime loss to Virginia this past week.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's really the story going into this game. It was going to be, had Florida State won that game, it was going to be, wow, this is the biggest Florida State-Miami game we've had in a long time. Both of them would be top 10. Miami's got the big wins, Florida State. And now the story to me really is, what, can Florida State get back off the mat? And now they're going home. It's in Tallahassee. That's always good, comfortable. There's no issue. I'll say this. There's no issue with Thomas Castellanos and the way he played against Virginia. He was the only reason they were still in that game at the end of it anyway. I think that's the story here. Can Florida State, that's a big loss. It kind of, especially since it was within the conference, it kind of neutralizes the high of the Alabama win week 1. Can they get back off the mat and figure it out against maybe the hottest team in the country?
Yep. You have the Florida State offense in this game, which was good against Virginia. It wasn't the offense that was struggling out there. It was the defense. Well, I'll get to later. What should we know, Dalton, when they have the ball, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think schematically, this is considering the defensive line and how good the Hurricanes defense has been. I think schematically with Gus Malzahn and Tommy Castellanos in this offense, this is Miami's toughest opponent left, at least for their defense. I think the way that Malzahn can get this run game to the edges, the option looks, the RPO looks, and then the deep shots downfield to complement it, you have to be A+ on your assignments when you play against this Florida State team, and all the dimensions and even all the trickery that Gus Malzahn can throw at you. It's always been that way. I think this is the one offense left on Miami's schedule that maybe has a chance to work around this D-line. Now, Florida State, 6th highest run rate in the nation, I believe highest in the Power 4. So, I mean, they're running this thing like a jacked-up academy school with the play calling because it's Gus Malzahn. That's what we do. 3rd in rushing grade, 1st in EPA per rush, 2nd in yards per carry, 3rd in explosive run rate. When you talk about Castellanos, guys like they got a million backs who have touched the ball this year. Gavin Sawchuk is the main one. When you talk about, Jalen Lucas flying around on jet sweeps and reverses and things like that, just all the different ways that Gus Malzahn can attack a defense and work around that first level to get all those athletes in space and all the motion, all the things you saw them do against Alabama, because between the tackles, they don't really physically dominate you. They run inside zone. They'll run it to keep themselves on schedule. But Florida State's only 60th in run blocking grade. So that's going to be an interesting part, too. Can Florida State get anything between the tackles, or is it all on the edges? But I think just the way that Gus Malzahn runs this offense. Because even, again, go back to the Alabama game. What was hurting Alabama? Not just running, boom, smack right at them, right at LT Overton and those guys. You're not making it easy on them. It's bouncing to the edge. It's Castellanos keeping on the read option.
Not knowing who has the ball.
It's not knowing who has the football. And it's all the reverses with whichever, how many different guys going in jet motions and orbit motions. I think this is the one offense left. Just the way Gus Malzahn runs it. And you have the quarterback. And also, it's going to be a big factor with Castellanos' legs of, well, you better keep him in the pocket. He breaks outside the hash marks. You have a real problem, right? But I think it's the run game. This is the one run game to me, and the one thing that you go, if Miami dominates on the defensive line and just shuts down this offense with the front four the way they've done it the first few, I don't know who's beating them. I don't, because this is like, it's almost that, I don't want to say, it's almost that novelty, super cracked out college rushing offense that would be the answer, because you can't block these guys. And I would guarantee you Florida State's offensive line is going to come out with a similarly low grade as the first few Miami. I mean, look at what they did to Notre Dame and USF, who'd been playing well, and Florida with their elite offensive line, and they were a disaster. Finished the game with like a 12 pass blocking grade. Florida State's run game, as usual, is going to be the key. They fell, I think, still a big stat from the Virginia game last week. They didn't have a single offensive snap in that game with a lead. This team is meant to play out front. If I'm Florida State, I almost consider, if I win the coin toss, taking the ball first.
Yeah.
You need a lead. You have to. If they fall behind on this Miami D-line, they have a real problem.
Yeah, Florida State right now is 60th in run blocking grade, and Miami's second best run defense grade behind Texas Tech right now in the country. The Miami defensive line, I would argue, is the best defensive line in the country. I'm also campaigning for Ruben Bain Jr. to get more Heisman love right now. I wrote an article a couple weeks ago why he should be the Heisman favorite right now. He's the best player in college football, in my opinion. That Miami defensive line is loaded, but also, like Dalton mentioned, that Florida State run game is very, very dangerous the way it's designed out there. I'm looking at really the trenches too. Can Florida State get any pressure on Carson Beck? It was the exact matchup that actually Drake Holiday shouted out in the chat. So Ballin or Drake Holiday, of course, shouting out that matchup. The biggest reason why Miami is one of the top contenders right now to win the national title is their dominance in the trenches on both sides of the ball. The defensive line, like Dalton mentioned, is absolutely elite. The offensive line is also absolutely elite right now. The Hurricanes are 10th in pass blocking grade this year, 79.4 offensive line grade. That's 9th in the country, and they have the 8th best grade in the country, too. And quarterback Carson Beck has done a really good job of taking advantage of those clean pockets. He has a 76.5% completion rate from a clean pocket. That is 26th among all quarterbacks in college football. Florida State, meanwhile, only 93rd in pass rushing grade this year at 66.6. And it's not like Florida State has an elite secondary to make up for their lack of a pass rush right now. They're 83rd in coverage grade at 72.9. We might see Florida State defensive coordinator Tony White send a lot of blitzes Carson Beck's way, because if you give that guy clean pockets all night, I think Florida State's in for a world of hurt on that defense.
Yeah, no, I think that is the tough part. And when you look at Florida State, there is not a single player on their entire team with a 70 pass rush grade. Not one. And the highest defensive lineman is 67.6. That's an issue. It's the same issue we talk about. If you give Carson Beck time, he will use that time in a very productive manner. I think Florida State, and they still have to stop the run against that offensive line with Mark Fletcher and Shamar Brown coming right down to pipe at him. It's not a creative run game. It's basically the opposite of Florida State's, but they're very physical, and they break tackles. So if Miami, they have a shot here in their own way to control the pace of this game. Right? They get the ball first. You talk about, okay, those two big backs getting after it. You talk about that offensive line getting after it, and then Carson Beck, you give him time. And even if you're blitzing, he can see him if you show him too early. So I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be big for Florida State to not allow Carson Beck. You do have to find a way to disrupt him. But that offensive line, too, I mean, we talk about it with Miami constantly. The trenches, that's where they dominate. And if they dominate on both sides, they'll be just fine again.
So what is the biggest Miami-Florida State game in over a decade? Who will win between the Hurricanes and the Seminoles?
I still think you do have the rivalry factor of these two teams because this is just how it goes. Unless it's like last year where one is so much better than the other with Florida State winning 2 games last year. This game is always weird. As long as they're reasonably close within each other. I still think despite the Virginia loss, Florida State is pretty darn good. I think schematically, Gus Malzahn can cause this Miami defense some issues in the run game and getting out in space. Miami's going to really have to play good assignment football in this game. But I like Miami. When you can dominate in the offensive and defensive line in the trenches like they do, and you have that quarterback in Carson Beck. If there's one guy on that Miami team that is not going to be bothered by the big, loud environment in Tallahassee, it's Carson Beck. He used to play in them every week in the SEC. I'm not worried about Carson Beck's composure. That's why he's the senior leader on this team, despite just getting there this year. I'm going to play it close. I think it will be close because it's going to be one of those Miami-Florida State games. But give me the Hurricanes 27-24.
Wow. Okay.
I think Castellanos especially – He still made plays to try to bail them out of the Virginia.
He had a great game.
He will still make some plays in this game. He's been fantastic. And Miami, also just to throw this out there, the difference in approach from, the first few games, DJ Lagway, Byron Brown can run a little bit, but the first few games, Miami could just get after it up front. You got to be a little more disciplined with the pass rush against Castle. Make him step up instead of out. That's going to work to your advantage.
Yeah, definitely. And then the run defense, too. There's so many more gaps to take control of on run defense than they've faced early on in the season, too. So I got Miami as well, a little bit bigger. I have 31-24. I have Miami covering the spread against Florida State. I just look at, yes, the Florida State run game is a very unique matchup for Miami's defensive line. But I still think Miami will win in the trenches on both sides of the ball and come up with a road win. This Miami trenches, man, it's the story of the year right now, I think, in college football. It's how dominant they are in the offensive line and defensive line. And like you mentioned, Carson Beck within a clean pocket is really good. Florida State's pass rush has been not great this year. So I think Miami will win 31-24, which should be a heck of a ball game, maybe the biggest game of Week 6 that we have in college football. Another 7:30 game that we've got is Minnesota at number 1 Ohio State, again 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC and Peacock. Really, will Ohio State continue to show that they are the best team in college football right now? So they've lost plenty from last year's national championship roster. 14 Buckeyes were taken in the 2025 NFL Draft, tied for second most all time, and both of their coordinators departed the program as well. And this year, Ryan Day has showed, hey, we're just reloading. We're not rebuilding right now. They're the top-ranked team in the country. They're the favorites to win another national title this year at plus 500, according to DraftKings Sportsbook. Ohio State's defense, which lost 8 starters from last year, is leading the nation with only 5.5 points allowed per game. The Buckeyes look to continue their dominant run against a 3-1 Minnesota team that features one of the nation's highest-graded quarterbacks in redshirt freshman Drake Lindsey, but the Golden Gophers have not beaten Ohio State since the 2000 season either.
Yeah, I think what you have is Ohio State. Look, they were the obviously the national champions, and so far this year they have proven why, and we questioned with as much as they've lost, especially on the defensive side, and the quarterback for that matter, if they could do it again. They sure look like early in the season they can do it again. And then Minnesota, look, another one. You get a real prove-it opportunity here to take a step up here in the Big Ten. Big win, big comeback win last week against Rutgers. I thought that was big for them, especially for Drake Lindsey. And I think a big storyline for Minnesota is running back injuries right now.
Yeah, Darius Taylor's out for the year.
A.J. Turner's out for the year. He's their number 2, but Darius Taylor's missed the last 2 games. They've basically just been relying on Lindsey to win them ball games. He's done it so far, which is great for a young kid making his first few starts, but this is a different test now for Drake Lindsey. When you talk about this isn't Rutgers, this isn't Cal, this is Ohio State, and this is Caleb Downs in this secondary, this is going to be fun to watch.
These are two teams, Dalton, that have two redshirt freshman quarterbacks that have been outstanding for them this year. Tell me more about Minnesota, though, with Drake Lindsey.
Look, he's a big 6'5" pocket passer with a big-time arm that's been getting it done. I think, again, the experience that he got last week, especially beating Rutgers in a big comeback win, especially without the run. Minnesota only ran for 42 yards last week on Rutgers, and Lindsey he's carrying their offense right now. I got to give him a lot of credit. You look at his numbers so far this season, 90.6 passing grade, top 5 in the country. 4% big-time throw rate, which I think he'll even get better with his big arm later in the season. But for a young kid, only a 1.5% turnover-worthy play rate. He's been pretty safe with the football. He's made some plays outside the pocket, but he's mostly going to win from inside of it. And I think his most dangerous throws come deep down the middle of the field. Can he challenge Caleb Downs and Jalen McClain and these Ohio State safeties down the middle of the field and keep making the big throws to the deep post that he is? But he's legitimately, for the last 2 weeks, one loss to Cal and one win against Rutgers, he has been single-handedly carrying this offense because of these running back injuries. And look, we don't know if Darius Taylor is going to play this week, and PJ Fleck's being kind of coy about it. We're going to see I believe he said we're not going to see the injury report till the day of. But, if Taylor's out, this is basically what you're relying on to win a ball game for you, is Drake Lindsey. Big throws from the pocket, especially down the middle of the field, I think is really where Ohio State and Matt Patricia, they need to be careful not giving up any of those big shots, because he's throwing between the numbers really, really well right now.
Yeah, you see right now 90.6 passing grade, but he is going against what I would call maybe the best defense in college football this year. Ohio State allowing 5.5 points per game, only 13 combined points allowed to two dangerous offenses in Washington and Texas, too. That Ohio State defense is playing lights out football right now. I'm looking at Julian Sayin, the other redshirt freshman quarterback in this game, and Ohio State's elite receivers against Minnesota's man coverage. Julian Sayin has been the most accurate quarterback in college football this year. He leads the nation with a 79% completion rate and also leads the nation with an 87% adjusted completion rate. So really, your completion percentage plus any drops your receivers have too. It also helps, though, he has an elite group of weapons to throw to. Jeremiah Smith, who's a legit Heisman candidate right now, and a potential first-round pick in this year's draft in Carnell Tate, too. The Buckeyes are currently 9th in America with an 80.5 receiving grade this year. They always have an elite receiving core. It's no different this year with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate leading it. But Minnesota is 20th in coverage grade right now at 89.9, and they excel in coverage while running man coverage at one of the highest rates in the country. They run man coverage over 43% of the time this year. That's 13th in America. A vast majority of that, 35%, comes in cover one, which is man coverage across the board and one deep safety back there. Usually, sometimes Corey Parrish plays in the slot a little bit, but sometimes go back to free safety too. Julian Sayin, I will say, has been far better against zone coverage than he has been against man coverage right now. A 58.2 passing grade against man coverage, 91.6 passing grade against zone coverage. Against man coverage, he's completed 7 of his 16 attempts with a 66.7% adjusted completion rate. But I will say, it's a very limited sample size for Julian Sayin against man coverage. And for Minnesota, playing man coverage across the board against those freaks at wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate will present a much, much harder challenge than anything they've had all year. And also the most accurate quarterback in the country, Julian Sayin, too. So yes, Minnesota's been great in coverage this year and in man coverage this year too. But now you're going against Ohio State with the most accurate quarterback in the country and just freaks across the board at wide receiver.
So what's interesting about that, and kind of a philosophical shift for Minnesota, because Minnesota's always got a good secondary. They got great defensive backs every year. 2 years ago, when they had Tyler Nubin in that crew, they were more of a sit-back, quarters, too-high kind of team. They ran cover one 14% of the time. Last year, they almost double that, up to 27%. And then this year, you look at them, and I think, 38%, right around there, that they're 37% that they're running. So it's an interesting shift in philosophy. And look, if you have talent, if you have man coverage talent, use it. If you're PJ Fleck, if you have zone coverage talent like you had with Tyler Nubin back in the day, so be it. But you do wonder if you can take that gamble, because it's Jeremiah Smith, it's Carnell Tate, it's Brandon Inniss, it's Max Clare, and then they're just starting to get these young backs going in the back.
Cover one with one safety back there. It's like maybe cover two man is what you should be playing.
Possibly, but then you make the choice of Ohio State. They're getting in this running game with Bo Jackson and these guys a little bit in the backfield.
Yep.
It's a choice with Ohio State, and facts are facts. Look, Ohio State's not going to see a ton of man coverage in general, so Sayan's numbers are kind of small sample. There's dangers of small samples there, but we know he's accurate. We know with Jeremiah. Listen, if there's anything, the first play that gets put in this offense, more so than any concept, is if number 4's got press man, just do it, just chuck it up to him, right? So it's an interesting kind of decision to make if you're Minnesota. Do you break the tendency and go, okay, we just can't this week. We can't do it. We just cannot let these guys get over the top, because if you do that, the game could just be over after the first quarter.
Yeah. All right, ultimately, Dalton, will Minnesota pull off the impossible here as a massive 23.5-point spread, or will the top-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes take care of business at home?
Yeah, I mean, that the spread and the debate on the cover is going to be interesting, but I just – especially if they don't have Darius Taylor to balance this offense out. Look, they've already asked Drake Lindsey to do a lot so far, especially last week, basically carrying them single-handedly to a win over Rutgers. And I like Javon Tracy and those receivers, but this is a different this Ohio State secondary is a whole different animal with Jermaine Matthews, with Davison Igbinosa, with Caleb Downs and Jalen McClain, and all these guys they have on the back end. It's just tough. It's tough to project Minnesota scoring a ton of points in this game. I've got Ohio State 31-9. I think Ohio State, the one thing we've seen in their first two games against Texas, great defense, Washington, decent defense, I think underrated. Remember, that game was only 24-6 last week. They got to finish drives. They're still not playing A-plus offensive football in Ohio State yet, especially in the red zone. I think if they start finishing drives, that's when you start talking about blowing some teams out, turning 0s and 3s into 7s. So that's something I'm looking for, is their red zone offense in this game. And that's the one spot where I think early in the season where Sayan hasn't been fantastic, is when you get down in the red zone in those tight windows. But I think they're going to figure it out. And I think they cruise to a pretty solid win here over Minnesota. Good Minnesota team, but missing those running backs is going to hurt them this time, because you can't ask your quarterback to carry you against a team like this.
You can't. I haven't actually covered the spread. I have 34-7. I have Ohio State winning this game. Drake Lindsey has been very, very impressive so far, but this Ohio State defense has been lights out against far more explosive offenses like Texas and Washington than the one Minnesota has right now. So that's an issue for them. And also, Ohio State's elite receiving core will be too much. If you're going to play cover one across the board all game, it's going to be a tough matchup for Minnesota in that game too, against Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, even Max Clare too, a tight end, is a really good player. It's been a little quiet this year though too. I have a 34-7. I have Ohio State beating Minnesota. I think it'll be pretty. They'll take care of business pretty easily, I think, at home in this night game too. So I have Ohio State winning by 27. Final game in our preview is a really fun one. Mississippi State at number 6, Texas A&M, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on SEC Network. Texas A&M looking to continue their hot start to the season, while Mississippi State seeks a bounce back for their season right now. So Texas A&M has their highest ranking at number 6 since 2022, thanks to its first 4-0 start in 9 years. Right now, the Aggies are building one of the most impressive resumes in college football. They have a road win over previous number 8 Notre Dame, and also a victory over Auburn this past weekend. That resume could be even stronger after this weekend against a pretty good Mississippi State team, one of the bigger surprises we have in college football this year. They were 2-10 last year, one of, if not the worst team in the Power 4, but now they're 4-1. They've already doubled their win total from last season, but they had an overtime loss to number 15 Tennessee this past weekend. Mississippi State was number 19 in the PFF Top 25 before that loss, and a win. They also have a win over the current number 25 team in Arizona State If the Bulldogs can pull off the road upset this week, they'll surely join the top 25 heading into Week 7.
Yeah, Mississippi State, similar vibe to Florida State, even though they were the underdog against Tennessee, where can they get up off the mat, right? They lost an absolute heartbreaker. They had chances to win that game, and Tennessee just made one more play than they did. They ran the football really well on Tennessee, and I think it's very clear to me that Mississippi State's defense, this defensive improvement, that is real, especially in the secondary like we talked about. Now, again, Aguilar got some wins in the passing game last week, and obviously Tennessee with the 2 defensive touchdowns. You have to cut down on your own mistakes if you're the Bulldogs here, but they've got a shot in this game for sure. I don't think A&M has – I don't think they've had a game yet where they have played front to back their best football on both sides of the ball, so that's something I think Mike Elko is still looking to improve on both sides of the ball. But big win last week against Auburn, get back to the ground and pound with Le'Veon Moss, and their defense looked really good last week against the Auburn Tigers. So I think that's going to be the big thing. How does Mississippi State respond? Getting up off the mat, emotional loss at home, and now going over to the 12th man at Kyle Field there.
It's going to be a really tough matchup for them, but they are a really spunky team this year. I think Mississippi State has done a great job so far this year. Dalton, you have their offense against A&M and Mike Elko's defense in this game. What should we know about that?
So I think, to me, the biggest threat, and we certainly saw it last week against Tennessee, the biggest threat with this Mississippi State offense is these 2 backs, Devon Booth and Fluff Bothwell, just 2 big physical backs who can break tackles and break off big runs. And I think something that I've noticed as more of a habitual thing with this entire offense. So Mississippi State, they're only 88th in run blocking grade. They don't really dominate you between the tackles. Where they win is if you lose contain and you let these 2 backs, Booth and Bothwell, you let them bounce outside. When they get off tackle, Mississippi State is 3rd in the nation in rushing grade. They are 14th in yards per carry. They have the 2nd most touchdowns and the 5th most explosive runs. You've got to keep contain and keep these 2 backs in the box. And then there's a little bit of a read option element with Blake Shapen every here and there. It's not too often, but he is a threat to keep it if you have those read option concepts in the gun. But I think that's the big thing for me when you look at Texas A&M and their defense, the edge players, when you talk about guys like TJ Searcy and Cassius Howell, they need to stay disciplined and keep contain. And then, of course, Torian York and Scooby Williams making open field tackles on these 2 backs. I think that's going to be a battle all night. So Booth and Bothwell, it's just a great running back pair to say out loud, to be honest with you. They're 2 really good backs, and I think that's the most dangerous part. If your edge rushers aren't disciplined and they lose contain and you let these 2 get in the open field, you're taking your chances because that's where they can hurt you the most.
I'm looking at the run game, too, for Texas A&M, and really, is Texas A&M finally a run-first offense? So, Dalton, when we did our preview for Texas A&M going into the season, we listed their biggest strength as potentially the best run game in college football because, after all, they had our number 5 running back unit in the country entering the year, our number 3 offensive line in the country entering the year, and a quarterback in Marcel Reed who has excellent mobility. But through the first few weeks, Texas A&M was a pass-happy team. They had a 60.9% pass rate going into Week 5. That was the 10th highest rate in the Power 4. And you thought, okay, that will continue to show this past week against Auburn because Auburn had the 2nd best run defense grade in the nation going into Week 5 at 94.3. And yet, the Aggies ran all over the Tigers in that game. Texas A&M ran the ball on almost 60% of their plays in that game with 243 rushing yards and a 5.7 yard per carry average. The Aggies had a season-high 68.5 run blocking grade in that win, with 100 of their rushing yards coming before contact. Mississippi State, their run defense has been relatively average this year. They're 48th in run defense grade, 49th in yards per attempt allowed. But when you isolate their run defense numbers against Power 4 opponents, the Bulldogs' run defense grade drops to 78th in the country, and their 5.2 yards per carry is 74th in the country. Arizona State had a lot of success against Mississippi State in that loss for Arizona State with the run game. So I'm a little worried for Mississippi State in this one against a really now dangerous Texas A&M run game. If they employ a similar run-first strategy against Mississippi State, they could have success. If not, right now the Bulldogs have the 13th best coverage grade in the country right now, too. So if you try to win with Marcel Reed as a passer, I know they got great weapons like Mario Cravers had a great year so far, but Mississippi State probably wants Texas A&M to pass the ball a lot more in this game A&M probably would be smart to run the ball first in this one, too.
Agreed. No, this Mississippi State secondary, they are very good. They're very, very good. But I think it's a great call on your part there about the Arizona State game, even in a win. How did Arizona State get back into that game? Running the football. Tennessee last week, they ran for 139 yards on 30 carries. Last week, 2 touchdowns as well. I think that's a big thing. You got to get physical with Mississippi State. Their secondary, I think it's really, really good. Big-time improvement from Jerron Manning and those guys. I think up front is where it can be had a little bit. Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, Ruben Owens. You know the weird part to me, the only weird thing? Casey Concepcion does not have a carry this year. And I thought there was going to be some jet action. And honestly, I think if you put him in the backfield, he's probably just as good as the rest of those guys.
He led NC State in rushing yards as a true freshman.
Right.
As a wide receiver.
I mean, it's odd to me that he doesn't have a carry, and Terry Bussey only has one. That's odd to me that those are 2 athletes that maybe you could use a little more in the run game. But last week, that was, I think, a big story for A&M last week. That was the first week since last year that Le'Veon Moss looked like Le'Veon Moss, right? Breaking 6 tackles, over 130. He just set the tone. If you have Moss again as that tone setter early in the game, I think it does open up the rest of the offense in a better way.
So ultimately, Dalton, what should be a really fun SEC game on Saturday night, will the Bulldogs pull off the upset and what there are 2 touchdown underdogs right now against Texas A&M, or will A&M continue their perfect season?
I don't like them as 2 touchdown. Is it 14-point underdogs there? I don't like them that wide. I think Mississippi State has proven they're better than that. Now maybe I'm wrong. Tough road environment again. Tough loss last week to Tennessee, a game they could have had. But I have it 28-20 Aggies. I think Moss and the development we saw from him last week is big time and getting balance in this offense. I don't think A&M has played their best football yet. I really, despite them being 4-0 for the first time, you said, in 9 years, they haven't played their best football yet. I don't think they've played a complete football game yet. We'll see if they can do it here. If they can, maybe they can cover that. But I think Mississippi State is game. Again, they got 2 good backs, a veteran quarterback in Blake Shape, and he's really the X factor here. Can he handle the pressure of that environment and the pressure even of Cassius Howell and a really good Texas A&M defensive line getting after him, because Shapen under pressure can make some mistakes. But I think Mississippi State has proven that they are good enough to stay within that spread. I'm going to take Texas A&M 28-20.
I have them winning as well, but also I have Mississippi State covering. I have it 31-24. Texas A&M coming out on top. I think both offenses are going to want to run the ball a lot in this game. I think A&M will have a slight advantage in that aspect against a really inconsistent Mississippi State run defense right now. So a close win, closer than the sportsbooks have it right now, but I still think A&M will win this game and continue their undefeated season over a really much improved Mississippi State team as well. So I have a 31-24 Texas A&M beating Mississippi State on Saturday night. We're not done yet, though, here on this preview show. We have to do our upset picks of the week. If you don't know, we are picking an upset, at least Dalton and I, outside of the games that we just previewed, picking a money line. If that money line hits, it gets added to your point total at the end of the season. So right now, Dalton, I have a huge lead on you and Eli. I have 579 points right now.
That Maryland over Wisconsin call looms large. That's going to
Cal had a thriller win over
Cal had a thriller.
I got another one right, too. What did I get right?
There was a third one. I don't remember what it was. But
I have too many I got right.
It was that whatever you had that week. What is it that week that I picked?
Oh, UNLV over UCLA I had.
Well, that was an easy one. Yeah, you did. You just beat us to that one.
Yeah.
We knew that was coming. Yeah. But no, I mean that. But I think especially that Maryland over was. But listen, first time last week this year that we got all 3 right.
Okay. Now that Eli's actually in studio now, you guys suck for that. You guys suck.
What did I do?
No, not you. You for the first time for betting against Syracuse and making me bet against Syracuse too.
I did do that.
Eli,
it was good process.
We lost that, by the way, because of you. We lost the parlay because Eli and I both got it right that week. Eli had to be a jerk and take Oregon against my Penn State Nittany Lions this past week.
Yeah, sorry, dude. I wanted to win us money.
He did. I mean,
win us money.
It worked.
You're going to be mad that I was the last leg of the parlay and it hit?
I also don't think you can be mad at him because you picked Oregon to win as well.
I did pick Oregon.
I think the fact
and also on the PFF betting show when I did my parlay at the very end, I had Oregon as one of the parts of the parlay.
You have to. You manifested it is what happened.
I did.
You did. Oh.
You have to hedge your happiness.
What did we win? We won. It was like plus.
Plus like 1,800, right around there.
So I think we won like $180, which will cover the rest of our
Basic,
parlay
it'll
bets.
cover the whole season.
Yeah, I feel that's
All we got to do is hit one more.
money is good.
I want everyone to be tailing our parlay bets too. And also, I'll make a parlay with all the other upsets that you guys call out in the chat too. So I'll go first because I'm in the lead by a lot. My upset pick of the week in week 6, I have Wake Forest plus 205 over Virginia Tech right now. Wake Forest lost a heartbreaking overtime loss to a really good team, a top 20 team in the country in Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech, yes, has won 2 games since firing Brent Pry as head coach. I'm not all the way there on the Hokies yet, though. I think plus 205 is a big money line for Wake Forest in this game. So I kind of like the Demon Deacons. I know they're on the road too, but they're 6.5-point dogs. I'm just not buying Virginia Tech just yet, and Wake Forest really impressed me with that overtime loss to a top 20 team in Georgia Tech. So I like the Demon Deacons at plus 205 over Virginia Tech this week.
It's certainly an interesting call. Robbie Ashford, I mean, you just felt for him after the last play, and he just sat down. It was just in disbelief that they lost. They should have beat Georgia Tech, I'm sure they feel like. And Kyron Drones has been better the last 2 weeks in those 2 wins for Virginia Tech. So it's an interesting game with 2 teams that at least on the final score be damned against Georgia Tech. Wake Forest has some momentum. They have looked better than they did last year, and Ashford looks good right now, but that's a weird one. That's a weird one for sure. If Wake Forest can keep that momentum and just finish a game, then you're onto something there.
Definitely. All right, Eli, you're in second place right now with 275 points, about 300 less than me. What are you going for this week?
I'm going with our Vanderbilt Commodores over Alabama.
Oh, you're riding with me.
I got to stick with Diego Pavia. I know the line moved a little bit. I think, Max, you said it was 340.
340 now.
340 now, so even bigger. If there's a guy I like to bet on, it's the guy who thinks he's the best quarterback on the face of the earth. And I think that's Diego Pavia.
Including NFL, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think Diego Pavia right now thinks he's better than Josh Allen. And I love him for it.
I think he does, too.
It's like Cam Scatterbo at running back. It's the same idea where it's just like, Eli.
If Eli hits and I miss, by the way, Eli takes the lead. This is a big enough money line where he could take the lead on me with this.
Hey, he's riding with me on this one. He heard me talking throughout the Bama Vandy preview, and I'll just tell you, win or lose, I think we got an all-out war coming in that game because Vandy's not afraid. They've already beaten them once. I know it's in Tuscaloosa, and it's like you mentioned before, Ty Simpson's playing so well. Yep. I think that's going to be an unbelievable football game. I really do.
What is your upset pick of the week?
I am going back to a team that we haven't talked about in a couple weeks, and they've been through some trials. Last week, I picked actually a team from the same state to go on the road in a Big 12 conference game and get a big win on the road. I had Cincinnati over Kansas last week. Now I'm going to take the other Kansas team to get a win. Kansas State going down to Baylor right now at plus 185 on the money line, right around a 6-7 point underdog. I think Avery Johnson and this offense last week with Dylan Edwards fully healthy started to figure out, hey, we run the football around here. Now, that was against UCF. I think Baylor is better than UCF, but Baylor's defense has struggled all year, and especially to stop the run. It was the reason they lost the Auburn game. Their defense did not look very good in a game against SMU. They gave up 45 points. And last week, I kept telling everybody, I said, Baylor minus 20 against Oklahoma State is a lock. And they gave up 27 points to Zane Flores and Oklahoma State. And that's not a good sign for me. I know Baylor can score, Sawyer Robertson can score, but if Kansas State does have this thing figured out in the run game, with Dylan Edwards finally had a breakout game for him last week, fully healthy, and Avery Johnson and the balance that can be had potentially with this offense, even at home, I don't love this matchup for Baylor. And even against Arizona State, when they lost to them, what happened? Arizona State came out running the football. Dylan Edwards goes off again. I think K-State can go down to Baylor and get a win.
Short bus in the chat asking me what the Powerball numbers are this week because I've been so good at upset picks. I'm going to go 7. How many are there, Powerball?
I think it's 6 numbers, right?
I'll go 7, 10, 23, 32, 4, 16.
Now, the real question, is this for tomorrow's Powerball, or are you calling out Saturday like College Saturday? Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow.
All right, we're buying Powerball tickets?
Yeah.
All right.
And,
While you're placing your Powerball ticket, make sure you place the parlay, and it's 3,791. So $10 will net you about $389.
You know what's crazy? Because these are some fun upset picks that we do have. What's crazy is every week I also go with the full parlay on all the money line picks of all my game picks. Last week I went 10 of 12. One of these weeks I'm going to get perfect. Those three that I've already put both in. Those three upsets pay out more this week than my 9 money line preview picks.
Iris Smile.
That's crazy.
Iris Smile in the chat saying Wyoming over UNLV. So if you add that to the parlay, I'm doing that right now. That'll be $10 wins $941.
I thought there was some really good ones. I thought this was a fun list to pick from. I think Washington going all the way across country to Maryland, and Maryland's the underdog at home. I think that's a fun one. The other one I kind of like, Air Force is right around plus 300 against Navy. And Air Force can at least score. Their defense isn't great, but they can score. And you know how those academy games go? I don't hate Air Force over Navy either.
And the other one is Oklahoma State plus 800 over Arizona. One of the people put in the chat too. So I added both Wyoming. Ready for this? I added Wyoming and Oklahoma State to our upset parlay. It would be $10 wins $8,476.
You're throwing in Oklahoma State?
The chat did.
Oh, wow.
We're buying a house, boys.
You ain't kidding.
Can you imagine if we hit this?
Oh, boy.
Oh,
that would be something. The other one my brother swears by this week is that FAU is going to Rice and winning.
I'm telling you, anytime you throw a pick in the chat, I will put it in my parlay.
You're a sicko.
Oklahoma State, Wyoming, part of the parlay now. So $10 wins almost $8,500.
Right,
we'll take it.
You're buying the 30,000 subscriber dinner then. That's on you.
Oh, man, can't wait for that. We actually had another person in the chat, too, asking us if we're going to make it out to an Arizona State game. Long trip from Cincinnati, unfortunately, but we could try.
It is.
We'll look into it.
I've had thoughts about it.
Got a lot of Drake Holiday's a big Arizona State fan.
Yeah. If we get him on a Thursday or Friday, another Thursday or Friday game at some point, it's possible.
They play Texas Tech, I believe, this year, right? Yeah, they play Texas Tech. October 18th. That's soon, though. We gotta figure that out soon. Maybe we'll make it out for a game.
Saturday would be rough.
Yeah,
We'll make it out. If it's Thursday or Friday, maybe we can think about it. Yeah.
All right. That's what we got, though, for our Week 6 preview. This is actually not the last live show we have until our Sunday show, because we are actually going on Friday, I believe, our first mock draft since our way too early mock draft back in April. So it should be a lot of fun with a brand new draft order, a lot of changes to what we feel about prospects this year too. So a lot coming on this channel. Friday with our mock draft, we're going to break down Oklahoma State and Arkansas's coaching vacancies right now too this week. And also an interview with Eric Galko coming up, the director of the Shrine Bowl. So a lot coming out this week before our review show on Sunday. But our review show on Sunday will be at 9 a.m. Eastern time right here on this channel, breaking down almost, if not all of these games, plus any other wild results from what should be a awesome Week 6 of college football. For Dalton Wasserman, for producers back there and Eli and Ty, I'm Max Chadwick. We'll see you guys on Friday with our full 2026 NFL mock draft.